Welcome to the LowCarbMD podcast. No one is beyond help. No one is beyond hope.
As we've always said, we're bringing you medical information and cutting-edge science, but none of this is medical advice. Please seek out input from your own doctor.
Hello and welcome back to the LowCarbMD podcast. Tro, this is a good one, man. I'm really excited. I'm really excited about this. This is someone who's done, I think she's outdone you, Tro. I'm pretty sure.
She's definitely outdone me. Yeah, she's definitely outdone me. This is somebody very, very special. Rocio, I am so happy that you're going to share your story. First of all, at some point, you got to talk to people about where they can get the best soaps in the world. But before we get there, okay, people are going to want to hear about your story because you have faced hardship, an uphill battle with your, medical care, and you've lost 210 pounds against medical advice. And I think your personal story, and when you first came to me, I was like, Rocio, I need to do more justice for you, and I can't. You're facing so many issues. And I have never seen somebody fight so hard to reclaim their health. So when you said, hey, Tro, can we get together? I was like, let's do it on the podcast, So I'm very happy to have you here.
Yeah.
Very, very happy to have you here.
Okay. Yeah. I'm happy to be here, and hopefully I can shed some inspiring little stories where people can actually feel like they can go up against their doctors and say, I'm not being treated right, so I don't like you. And it sucks, but I feel like these are real things. And unfortunately, I feel like doctors, yeah, they know it. They know a lot. They went to school for this. I have the utmost respect for them. But there's certain times that I knew that it wasn't the right thing. And I guess we can, I don't know, should we start like the whole
let's start. Let's go all the way back. Let's go back when you were a kid. Tell us about when you were a kid in life and all that stuff. And I can't wait. I've been overweight my entire life. I was always the gordita, as we all know it in Spanish, and the chubby girl. And I always grew up, thinking, hey, this is just my body. This is just me. And I was basically the heaviest out of both sides of the family, my dad's and my mom's. And it was just this frustrating thing. So my mom took me to dietitians and nutritionists, and I had a food journal before I had an actual journal, and those are the things that from the age of 10 and on, I was constantly seeing dietitians. And, so fast forward, I get married, everything's happy. My husband was in the military, so he's pretty active. He's kept me on my toes. And, in 2008, my grandmother and my uncle passed away within like a week of each other. And at the cemetery itself, I ended up having chest pains and I couldn't breathe. And so right away, my husband's like, let's go to the ER. We go to the ER and they're just like, oh, you're having an asthma attack. So I'm like, okay. So they send me to adult medicine, which is like another 3 buildings down. And when I get there, they're, giving me 3 nebulizer treatments, one after another, after another. And I'm like, this is not my asthma. This is not my lungs. This is something inside of me that's not right. And how old are you at this point?
32.
32.
I'm 32 at this. Yeah. And so they're like, no, let's go for another treatment. And I just said, I refuse another treatment. By this time I'm crawling up the walls because I just can't breathe. And I'm like, this is something deeper. You guys don't understand. And they're like, well, you're going to have to go back to the ER to go get, more labs and more tests done. So I'm like, okay, my husband has to get a wheelchair and he pushes me because by this time I can't even walk. So I get into the ER, they take the labs, and sure enough, I guess the X's and the Y's that came back, they were all mumble jumbled. And so they said, okay, you need to be admitted. So I get admitted that night. By 5 o'clock, I'm being into the angio area and I get my angio done. And sure enough, I had suffered a severe heart attack. And I got a stent placed.
They didn't tell me really anything. They just said, okay, you suffered a huge major heart attack. I'm sorry. And that, you know, I was going to have to take these medications for the rest of my life. And so I said, okay, but, you know, what happened, what caused it, you know, can I change, you know, anything? They really didn't have any information because of the fact that, I mean, they did, but because of my doctor, I didn't have a cardiologist. I didn't have anybody. So I just kind of went, you know, with it. And so that was fine. You know, I started following the American Heart Association diet. I ate my oatmeal, my juice. I drank my juice, my whole wheat toast, my brown rice, you know, all the good stuff on their end, but all the bad stuff. And so, you know, fast forward, I just kept gaining more and more weight. And it was just so frustrating. And I was to the point that we have a pool. So I was swimming every day. I mean, cramping. I was, you know, just hurting inside. And it was just nonsense. And every time I would go to the doctors, they would tell me, lose weight. You have to lose weight. Well, how? So once again, I started going to dietitians and they started giving me all these crazy menus and I would follow them. Only within 2-3 weeks, this isn't working once again. So fast forward to now we're moving in 2019. We moved from the Bay Area to Hollister. And we had to get a new PCP. So I go and I meet with this new PCP and I ask, you know, because he's like, what's going on? The first thing that he doesn't even say hello. He doesn't even greet me. He just said, what's going on? And I said, well, hello, I'm Rocio. And, you know, obviously I'm overweight and I need to lose weight, but my heart has been palpitating for about, you know, 6 to 7 months now since the move. And he's like, well, what's going on with your diet? You know? And I said, well, okay, well, you know, I've been following the American Heart Association diet. I've been doing the dietitian thing, you know, at Kaiser, and now, you know, I'm here. So you know, and he's like, okay, well, let's get some labs done, you know, and then we'll figure it out. But just to let you know, if you keep going like this, you're going to die because, you know, this whole heart attack issue. And I said, well, that's why I'm here. I want to get help with my heart. And I also want to get, you know, some nutrition advice, something, you know, can you pivot me? And I started crying and I'm like, please, you know, I'm begging you, you know, just to pivot me in any direction that I can to get my weight. I felt I was very successful in every part of my life except for my weight. So why is this such a big issue? And so
how much did you weigh at that? How much did you weigh at that time?
That was my heaviest. I was at 498. And okay. I didn't even know because they couldn't even, you know, they couldn't even weigh me because their scales wouldn't even go that high.
Can I bought it. Your question. So yeah. Look at even the way you presented it. Like, this is a problem I have because even though you said, yes, I know I have to lose weight, but I'm concerned about my heart. And he like does nothing about your heart.
Nope.
Right? Like, this is the bias. People think that weight bias is like some made up thing. I have had a patient literally come to me, okay, who had an aorta, like the biggest artery coming out of the heart, that was 6.5 centimeters big.
Oh my God.
And was told that he had to lose weight, and his symptoms of shortness of breath were all related to his weight. That's what he was told. You know, meanwhile, he has, but this is the problem is doctors, this bias is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And the bias is that you're lazy and you're not following what they're telling you to do and all those things. And you're judged right away instead of saying, let me listen to your story.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. And he didn't even listen to my heart. He didn't even listen to my heart. You know, he was just like so concerned about and I get it. I was obese. I still am. But, you know, I feel like that's a moment that, you know, I need to see my cardiologist. Well, this was at that time where COVID-19 had just started. So I get everyone was busy. Everyone, you know, was going crazy at that time. But you know, I was just like concerned with my heart. So, okay. So I go get my labs done and he still didn't even tell me about a cardiologist appointment, nothing. And so, you know, 3 days later, he said, you know, within 2-3 days, you'll get a call. So within 2-3 days, I get, you know, a call from his MA, not even him. And she says, Dr. So-and-so wants you to start taking metformin and start taking your blood sugar. And so I'm like, wait, what? What are you talking about? For what? And she's like, because you have diabetes. And so you have to take metformin and you have to now start taking your blood glucose readings. And I'm like, or blood glucose, I'm sorry. And so I'm just sitting there like, wait, what is this? You know, now I have another diagnosis. Like what? Okay.
And the doctor didn't pick up the phone to call you.
No,
I've heard this
it was his MA.
so many times where the medical assistant goes, "Oh, you have diabetes. Here you go." It's like saying, "Oh, you have cancer. Okay, call your other doctor." You know, it's amazing. It's just because it's such a scary diagnosis to get.
Exactly. And having family history of diabetes, you know, I'm just like, okay, can I, you know, fix this with diet and exercise? And he starts laughing, and he's like, "Are you kidding me? You've had 45 years of this, and you're still this weight. So obviously, this isn't working for you. Just take your metformin and let go." And I said, no, well, what is metformin? Can you explain it to me? You know, what does it do? I'm scared, you know, can you explain? Oh, I'm sorry. No, this was still I'm going back and forth, but this was still the medical assistant that I'm speaking to, because I asked her, can you have the doctor call me, you know, within 3 days, within the days that, you know, you guys are allowed. She said, yeah, within 3 days, I'll call you. Okay. The 4th day, I finally get a call, and he's like, hey, what's going on? No, once again, not hello, how are you doing? You know, and I said, well, I just—
Is this a young doctor or an older doctor? Like
he was like my, you know, 40s, maybe 50s.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, so yeah, and that's the thing, is that my husband worked at that hospital, and he got pretty good, you know, not referrals, but he did his little study, and everyone that worked around him was pretty good because they all felt he was a good doctor, but not with me. But anyway, so when he called, you know, I asked, well, what is this metformin? Can you explain it to me? I'm really lost, you know, and he's like, you know, it's to control your blood sugar. Your A1C is at 8.8, and you need to fix this, or else you're going to have another heart attack. And I said, well, once again, can I maybe change it with diet and exercise? And he's like, Rocio, you've been this obese for 45 years, you know, and it's not changing. So, and I said, okay, well then, can you pivot me once again? I'm begging you to, you know, pivot me in a direction where I can start at least lowering my blood sugar, you know? And he's like, let's get you in a diabetes class. Okay. Once again, 2-3 weeks go by, nothing. And by this time, I'm doing my own research. I'm, you know, getting on social media. I'm getting on Twitter. I'm following new doctors. I read, you know, I'm getting the book, The Obesity Code. I'm reading the Diabetes Code. My husband's reading it. You know, we're all like, what's going on with our medical, you know, with our medical staff here? Finally, I said, screw it. I need to go on my own. And a friend of mine actually worked at Stanford, and they accepted our insurance. And she worked with an amazing endocrinologist. And she said, you know, let's get you in. So thankfully she got me in, and that's when I started seeing Dr. Tro. And, you know, Dr. Tro was like, this is crazy. You know, you can so control this. You know, your A1C is 8.8, but your blood sugar readings were like 140. My blood sugar readings were like at 140, 130. They weren't, you know, too high because I had already been eating low carb. So I started seeing the difference right away. And so when I went to the endocrinologist, he says, yeah, you really don't need this metformin. You know, let's just try to control it with, you know, diet and exercise. Awesome. Okay. So I got the okay with him. I told Dr. Tro. Dr. Tro's like, let's do this, you know, let's get on it. And so I did the whole few weeks with him. And finally, the endocrinologist was the one who referred my cardiology appointment at Stanford. So I got an amazing cardiologist there. And I ended up having to have another procedure done. And I ended up getting 3 stents put in this time. And that was last July. You know, 2020, I'm sorry. And so after that, I was just, you know, I was a mess because they put me on Brilinta. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I remember you fighting, like, I think I was going to call your primary or call your, you know, endocrinologist. I may have even done it and said, hey, wait a second. This is a lady who's had early coronary disease and has palpitations. And I remember saying to you, I need to get you to somebody like right now.
Yeah.
And your primary wouldn't even give you,
nope.
You know, like the care kind of you needed. And you were lucky because I remember you just happened to see this endocrinologist and she just happened to be like, you're absolutely right. We need to look into the heart. And then when you said to me, oh, I got a cardiology appointment finally. I like took a breath of relief. And if I remember, were you in the Kaiser system? Was that like where you were?
No, I
No.
was still under the Salinas
Got it,
Memorial Care
right?
System. Yeah.
And so finally you had somebody who was like advocating for you after seeing person after person, really not taking care of your care.
Yeah.
So what happens next? And I remember I'm like, Rocio, you got to get like anybody who's had early cardiac disease and has palpitations needs to be looked into.
Exactly.
Right? And this is like the weight bias coming into the life. Okay.
Since I'm an outsider here, let me ask a couple of things. One, did anyone ever check your insulin level during this time to see what was going on from the time you have a heart attack at 32 years of age?
Nope. Not once. And I was going in for labs, and now that I can look back, it was at like 5.7, 6, but then nobody talked to me about anything.
But no one checked an insulin level to see what was going on, because your A1C could look fine and your insulin could be through the roof. That's one risk factor. And then the other thing is, did anyone ever talk to you about sleep apnea, possibility of ruling that out to make sure there's nothing else going on?
Nope.
Yeah. So these are all things that can raise insulin. Talk to you. How did anyone ever say, hey, what's your life stress like? How's life? What are you doing for fun?
No.
Right. These kind of questions never come up. They look at you and there's a judgment. And it's so sad for our profession. And the people that call me intro quacks, and that they don't understand. They just don't understand. They're not looking to say, let's look at the whole patient and try to figure the root cause, because metformin deficiency wasn't your problem.
Yeah, no, it was. I could go on forever on what my problems were.
So you're highly motivated now. You're worried about your heart. You're feeling something's off. Okay. You're starting to lose weight, but those heart issues are not, yet really figured out. I'm pushing you. Finally, your endocrinologist is getting you somewhere, but let's walk back. Okay. So you mentioned doing your own due diligence. You mentioned reading books. So how did your understanding of your relationship to food change early on, when you were coming and chatting with us? And what happened in terms of your outlook on how you advocate for yourself? How do you advocate for your dietary needs? Like, because I saw a Rosio change, and I want to talk about that, because I think it went from helpless, judged person, right, to wait a second, I got to put my life in my own hands. So can you talk about, and how did that manifest with your diet? So tell me about that change.
So I feel like I've always been very strong-willed and very, passionate when I speak. And I, sometimes even get told that I have a bit of an attitude when I speak, but I feel that all comes from my own passion. And growing up, my grandmother, she was diabetic. And anytime I would get upset or get sad, my parents getting divorced, or, she would always be that comforter. And she would tell me, whenever you feel sad, pop in a piece of chocolate. Whenever you feel, and she was diabetic. So, she felt she was helping me in that way, because, oh, your blood sugar's going down, honey, pop in a piece of candy. It's like, okay, but, so growing up, anytime I would feel sad, once again, or, mad or upset, pop in a piece of candy. And it was like my little comfort, my little, okay, I'm going to be okay. And no, it wasn't. It was totally the opposite. So, when I started reading the books and on stress and how, being upset or being sad or, being mad, it made sense. But then the CGM came into play. And once I put that into it, it was like arguing, having my own business, having those little issues come up. It was like stress. And I would see it just without me even putting things into my mouth. It was just, what's going on? And it took for you, Dr. Cho, to be like, okay, what happened here? Because we can see it clearly on your CGM that something happened. And I didn't eat. I was, that was when I was having my business and my husband was getting laid off, and, all these things were happening. And that's where it was like, aha, because I saw it in physical form, my stress and, those cortisol levels and, all those things, that it just made my weight not even go down. And I was on such a good roll that after a while, it was like, wait, what's going on? This stress is actually affecting me in that way. And, I started, okay, I got to start walking more, doing things from my own mind, kind of meditate myself. And that's when you were telling me, hey, even if you having to scream it out or talk to someone or do something, you got to let it out, because just holding it is obviously not going to help. And so I would tell you were my therapist also, my issues that were going on. And after that, I felt like, okay, I can, with you telling me too, you got to fight for yourself. And me being a fighter already, I felt like, why am I letting these doctors who feel, I felt like, because they're so smart in their ways, and they are, but there's just some that don't have that compassion. And that's where I have to fight, and that's where that shift I felt like was finally happening for me, because anytime I would go in, it was like, no, you're not listening to me. You're just listening to you're seeing my body and you're not even listening to me. And that cardiologist was, he was the first cardiologist to say, okay, let's do it then. Like, if you feel that you can do this on keto, I'm going to keep supporting you, but I want you to really focus on like paleo and, not the heavy fats, and go for fishes and chicken and things like that. And I said, okay, that's fine. Dr. Cho was excited about that. He said, as long as he's not ruling everything out, we're fine. So that's what I stuck with. And I feel that's kind of where the shift was, because.
Well, can we talk about, because I think one of the other things, you finally found a doctor who met you, but you also found a doctor who took you seriously. You had that, palpitations. And I told you, I remember I was like, I'm all the way here in New York. I'm like, we need to get you people out in California, and we need to get you a stress test, and we need to get you a Holter monitor, and we need to do things. And I can't do that from here at the time. Now I'm licensed. So we finally got you out to that cardiologist. What happens next? So you're losing weight, and what happens next?
I get my Holter monitor, because, you're like, hey, you got to start demanding stuff. And so I go in there, and I feel like I have now someone who believes in me. And honestly, that's all it took, was someone to say, you can do this, and that's why I want to kind of emphasize on the fact that I went to you, because I got told all my life, you're never going to get to a healthy weight if you keep eating the way you are. But I was listening to every single doctor that came my way. And so, for me to finally get that support, I said, I need to find a doctor who's going to support me, who's going to, even though he doesn't understand me, he's going to understand my weight challenge. And I started reading your story, and I started, like the little things here and there. And I'm like, this is my doctor. I don't care, what I have to do. He's going to be my doctor. I don't care. Like, I'll call and I'll ask for special request. I don't know what I have to do. So we were already in a budget, because my husband was in the middle of a layoff, but I saved every little penny I could. And that's when I contacted you, and I said, I need that help. And after that, it was like I said, I felt like I had a doctor who actually believed in me, so I can do this. And it's almost sad now, because I knew that I could do it, but always being challenged, always being, like just shut at the door. Like, nope, you're just fat. Keep going. We can't help you.
Exercise more, eat less, and you don't have willpower, all that. Yeah, it's so frustrating.
Rocio, if you and Brian, you two here, if you get a flat tire, what do you do? What do you guys do?
I call AAA, because I like those guys.
What do you do? What do you do when you get a flat tire?
I call my husband.
Your husband's busy. What do you do?
I pull over. I get on the side of the road.
Okay, you pull over. You're safe. AAA. Now, what do? You call AAA. Yeah. And if you called AAA and they said, listen, you really should be ashamed of yourself. You need to put more air in your tire than you let out. Like, don't you know that that's the cause of your flat tire? You have to put more pumps of air than you let out. And, thank you, and give me my $100 fee. What would you do?
Screw you.
Screw you.
Yeah, then you change your own tire too, and you go, I'm gonna get back on the road. Right?
You're gonna be pissed off for the
like, screw you. We would say screw you. And the problem is, this is the reality of what happens when a person with obesity goes into a doctor's office, right? They're getting somebody who's saying eat less, They're not getting somebody who's helping them, you know, figure out a way to manage their cravings and their appetite and their hunger.
Yeah.
They're getting somebody who's saying, you know, put more air in your tire than you let out. Like, listen, guy, I know I need more air in my tire than I let out. That's not the point, right? That's not the point. I need help. I need a way. So,
and you know, I'll just make this point too, Troy. If a patient like you comes to me, I get so excited. I even smile when they tell me their problems, and they're like, I know they're thinking, why are you smiling? Because I'm thinking I can help all this stuff that you're having. We have the tools to help you now. It's like, you know, if my computer breaks and I don't know what I'm doing, and the guy goes, oh, this is an easy fix, I'm happy about it because I know how to fix this, right? But when they say, you know, you're not doing what you need to do and they judge you, it's so hard. It's so frustrating. And then, you know, the most important thing with us docs and patient is having that relationship. We say, okay, this person cares. Like, so often, as a matter of fact, I just had this discussion with a doctor. The doctor just said, yeah, keto is so dangerous, it's bad for people. I go, oh, tell me what you know about it and tell me why you feel that way. And they've never looked into it. They have no idea. They just know it's bad because they saw it on the news or something. They saw something
US
on Twitter.
News and World Report.
Yeah, U.S. News and World Report. They go, that's just crazy. And they go, okay, but why? But what about insulin level? What about, you know, and it's hard because, like, I hate to just have a snap judgment without looking into it and saying, yeah, this is crazy. There's stuff that I've looked into, go, yeah, it doesn't make sense. But then I've seen other things where someone like you gets better and you go, okay, it's working for her. Maybe it's only a small percentage of people, which I don't think, but I think, you know, once someone, but the worst thing you could do is, like, you start making lifestyle changes, you're losing weight, and then your doctor goes, that's the worst thing you do, stop it. I was like, but I'm finally having success. And it's so frustrating because you don't have the support, and that's what Tro gave you.
Yeah.
What happened? So what happened next? Finally, I remember, you know, because what happens next? Because I think a big part of the journey, you already started your journey. I remember just, you were like flirting with it. We kind of pushed you along, but these serious medical issues were neglected by your medical team. We pushed you along. What happens next? So now you're like down 80 pounds. You have a good team behind you. And what happens next?
I get the stress test, and then I get the Holter monitor, and sure enough, they're like, okay, yeah, you need to have a procedure done. And within 2 days, it was after the Holter and the stress test, I got my procedure done.
And 8 months prior, you went to the doctor and said, I have palpitations. You hear that, Brian?
Yep.
8 months prior, she went to the primary, and the primary said, you got to lose. you know,
with a history of heart attack at 32.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
And then they're giving you nebulizer. And I get it. Like, you're 32-year-old. They're thinking it can't be the heart. Let's just keep giving you nebulizer, speed up your heart rate, and really infarct a lot better than we were before. Right.
Yeah. Look, so what happens? So you get the stress test, you get a procedure. What happens next?
They give, I start recovering. I get put on blood thinners, Brilinta. And within 2 weeks, I'm feeling horrible. And I've been on blood thinners before with my first heart attack. So I never felt this way. I literally felt I was going to die every night. My heart would palpitate even worse. I was like, I would feel, like I said, every night, like I would kiss and cry to my husband, telling him, I love you. You know, if I die tonight, I'm so sorry that I didn't give you a better life. I mean, it was so traumatic. And so at this time, Dr. Tro was like, you know, I don't want to be a disservice to you. So I want you to start working with someone who can monitor you a little bit more. And I said, okay, you know, I need the help. I don't know what's going on. And so that's when I ended up starting to work with Dr. Bayer. And, you know, as soon as I went to Dr. Bayer, I told her about the Brilinta, and she said, you know, I've had other patients say that their Brilinta is not good. So maybe you need to start bringing that up to your cardiologist. And I went in there, and this time I didn't even wait for him to ask. I said, I hate this medicine. Take me off of it. I don't want it anymore. And he said, okay. And it was like, what? You know, you didn't fight me. And he said, well, I've given you 3 weeks with it. And you said you didn't like it the first week, the second week, where you're feeling horrible. And now the third week, okay, let's get you off. So he goes, even though it's the best medicine for you right now, I just, you know, I can't see you improving with anything else. And I said, improving, you should have already fixed it. So he's like, you're right. Let's put you on Plavix. You should be okay. So after being put on Plavix, I was okay, but I still had that anxiety, that scare, and it would not leave me for, you know, a few months. And then I started feeling
a little wonky because, you know, I started feeling like, whoa, something's not right a couple of months after that. And sure enough, my blood pressure started going down and I was still taking lisinopril. So, you know, I called my cardiologist because by this time
you were now down 100 something pounds at that point.
Yeah,
right?
you dropped your insulin level, everything got better. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. And we see that. And people feel bad. We stop their blood pressure medicine. They go, oh, I feel great now.
Yeah, yeah. And by this time also my husband got rehired at Kaiser. So we're back at Kaiser with all my old doctors. And so this time it was like, you know, this is the new Rocio. And so they were, you know, right away, okay, what's going on? And, you know, I would tell every single, my cardiologist, my endocrinologist, my OBGYN, everyone who I met with. And they're just like, wow, keep going. You're doing great. And then January of last year of 2021, I started bleeding profusely. I mean, just huge clots were coming out of me. And I never had a normal menstrual cycle. And for about 3 years prior, I was diagnosed with fibroids and polyps and things like that. And so it was like, okay, I have uterus issues, you know, here we go. And so in January, like I said, it was just, I started bleeding and it was just crazy. And that's when they took me off of the blood pressure medicine. And they said, okay, you know, it's probably the blood pressure too. But because I was on the blood thinner, they couldn't really go in and do anything if they wanted to because I was still on that blood thinner. So they said, let's wait the 6 months and see how that goes. And we'll keep monitoring, you know, during that time. So I was getting biopsies every 3 months and it wasn't getting any better. And so finally in July, I ended up having a hysterectomy and they found that I had a cancerous tumor. And so now I'm considered stage 1, but the doctors and everyone was like, this is amazing on how you're recovering. I fasted for like 3 days after my surgery. And it was, honestly, it was like the easiest thing because I was in so much pain. But at the same time, I was like sitting there going, I'm fasting for 3 days. Like, but, you know, I was more happy over that than actually, you know, the hysterectomy and all that. But yeah, it was to finally have that out and, you know, trying to get better. But throughout that whole time, I just felt so like better just in general because of how I was eating, of how, you know, my sleeping was just so much better throughout these years. And now I'm finally able to do the things and, you know, say the things and, you know, express myself to these doctors who were not listening. And so with my oncologist, he was just ecstatic on not only my weight loss, but he's like, yeah, you know, sugar is what is feeding that cancer. So the more that you can stay off of that sugar, the least you're going to have it come back. And so it's like, here I am with my fingers crossed. I just had my 6-month evaluation and everything came back negative. And so I'm just kind of hoping to stay on that track. And it's just still a lot to even process. But
well, you know, and not knowing you back then when you first started, like I see your energy, your smile, your focus, your passion. That's so great to see because you got that back, you earned that back, and you speak to a truth of, you know, just because someone's nearly 500 pounds, it doesn't mean that they're lazy and they're not smart. I mean, you're the same person that was inside that body before, but people look at you differently. Now I'm sure people treat you differently also.
Oh, big time. Even at my dentist the other day, you know, I'm sitting there and they're like, wait, what is this that I'm hearing? 200 pounds? And so even my dentist is like, wait, I'm on blood pressure medicine. What's your diet? And, you know, Dr. Cho had expressed to me back in the day, he's like, you're going to be now teaching other doctors. So you just wait, you know, and now that's what I feel, because anytime I go to a dentist or a doctor or something, they're just like, you know, so wait a minute, 200 pounds? You know, and I started telling them about the books. And even at the ER, when I was, you know, bleeding like crazy, I'm trying to tell them, like, you know, and they're telling me, you might be anemic, you know, so let's get your percentage checked and all this stuff. But what's this book that you're talking about? And I'm like, the obesity code and the diabetes code. And now I'm trying to read the cancer code.
You know, what's funny, Tro, and, you know, I just have to say, because it bugs me so much. All these people on Twitter, all these other doctors pick on Jason Fung, say he's a quack and he's crazy. I've never heard anyone talk about their books that saved their life. I hear so many people say, Jason Fung saved my life. I don't hear anyone talk about these other guys who say, calories in, calories out saves your life, right? I mean, Tro, do you agree with me? I know you agree with me.
Look, I'm going to tell you, Rocio, your story, I think, and I don't know if it got across, but really the prejudice you face. I remember sitting there with you about 2 years ago, and you saying to me, Tro, I had a heart attack at age in my 30s, and now I have palpitations, and my doctor didn't even call me to tell me about my diabetes. And I remember one of the first things I was like, we need to create allies, right? We needed to create medical allies. And that was hard, right?
Yeah.
And that was hard to challenge everybody, and you challenged, I remember the endocrinologist wouldn't give you a CGM. And I was like, no, just politely ask, tell them you'll pay out of pocket, and we got you a CGM. Said, well, you got to go get these labs. And then it came to a point where I'm like, you need a stress test. You need a good team. You need and the fact that I think your perseverance shows one is a testament to what you've lived, but also that is the struggle of every person that comes in here, right? I mean, I've seen it time and time again, right? Yeah. Where people are being, they're disenfranchised and they don't want to question, right, what the doctor says and the food pyramid and, what the guidelines are. They don't want to question that. But you were like, I'm taking my life into my own hands. I do not see any benefit from what they have told me. And somehow you read Obesity Code, and listen to two crazy guys on a podcast, and here you are down 200 pounds. I don't know, Brian. Tell me what, maybe.
You know what? I was talking
for all,
This is relevant. I was talking to an older doc that's been around here in San Diego. Last night, I had him on my other podcast. Anyways, he teaches a lot of med students, and he says, what's your most important diagnostic tool that you have? It's the history. The most important diagnostic tool you can possibly have is knowing your patient's history, what motivates them, what do they hate, what do they love, and guess what? When you have 7 minutes with a patient, you can't do that. Your most important diagnostic tool goes out the window, and you say, okay, you have high blood pressure. Here's lisinopril. You had a heart attack when you're 32. Here's a cholesterol medicine. Here, instead of saying, okay, how do we look? How do we go back? I mean, still, I don't know. I mean, knowing, hey, are you a stress eater? Do you get stressed out when you eat? Do you binge? Can you do well for a while? What have you done before? What have you tried? And it seems like no one had a curiosity to say, okay, what you've done before isn't working. If I keep telling you to do the same thing that hasn't worked, it's so frustrating. So we have to keep adjusting and saying, hey, and so what you needed really was social support and doctors to say, hey, what you're doing is okay. I'm supporting you. And when you went to them and said, I'm drowning, help me. And they go, paddle harder. That's basically the answer. So I'm saying, hey, let me throw you a rope or a life preserver for you to hold on to.
Exactly. And that was the frustrating thing. And I know that a lot of other patients, I mean, I have friends and their parents have gone through the same thing. And now that's kind of what's giving me my drive now, is because, I've helped my friends' parents and a couple other people get off of insulin. And those are those things that I'm like, wow, just because I did, I still feel like I'm chubby and I still feel like I'm, this big girl, but how are people coming to me for those types of things now? But because in reality, A, we can't afford a private doctor usually. And B, when we do go, it's because we're cornered, and these doctors I feel like they're almost like, what's that word? Like they're entitled, like they feel like they're just
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, when you walk in there, you're already feeling defeated. And then they're like, even more like, you're going to be a loser for the rest of your life, basically in nice terms. But, and it was like, what? I'm here to fight, or else I wouldn't even be stepping foot in your freaking office. But at the same time, I learned that I am my own best advocate, so I have to freaking say something now when I don't feel something is right. And that's the thing, is we have so much trust in these doctors, and we have so much faith that they're going to fix us, and they do. But at the same time, it's not their job to fix us. It's their job to explain these things to us so we can fix ourselves. And,
Yeah, and I would say, like, I would say it's, you know, the first thing that came to mind, and I hate this word, but malpractice came to my mind. When they throw a drug at you, they don't explain, here's the risk, here's the benefit. Hey, you may get some diarrhea for a couple of days. That's normal. Here's, you know, that's our job, is to discuss risk and benefit. And that's the biggest thing I've seen over the last couple of years. We've lost that, you know, where you can only talk about the good part about a drug or a treatment, right? Instead of saying, hey, look, here's the reality. You may feel terrible, but it's normal. Like if you get surgery, you're going to expect bleeding for a couple of days. Here's what's going to happen. But if they say, here's your surgery, go home, and then you freak out because you're bleeding all of a sudden, where they go, that's normal, right? Or after a colonoscopy or whatever. So yeah, there's a lot of that where they just say, here's a pill, go, that'll fix you. Like without saying, that's not going to fix you if you're eating cookies and donuts all day. The metformin is not going to help you.
No, totally. And that was a huge drive for me too, because I knew that, you know, my eating, and being Mexican, we have the rice, the beans, the tortillas, you know, all right there.
All the good foods.
Are just, nope, no more. Yeah, but, you know, those at the same time, that's because, you know, I grew up in Mexico too. And so going back, you know, to that country, it was like, that's all they had sometimes, you know? And so when you come back up here, it's like, oh, wow, you know, we have McDonald's and Burger King and all these great, wonderful things. At least we're thinking that. But now, no way, you know, now I'm like, let's focus on the meats. And, you know, I'm so amazed, and I'm so grateful. And I know I keep bugging you, Dr. Cho, on Twitter, because I'm forever grateful on what what Brian and Dr. Bayer did.
Not a bug at all, actually. Well, can you talk a little bit about what your diet looked like initially, how it's progressed? We know that relationship to food changes over time, other stress coping mechanisms. So what did it look like initially? How has it progressed? And, you know, what do you eat now? And, you know, what are you doing now?
Well, okay. Well, since I already explained that I'm Mexican, so I come up with, you know, we come with the rice, the beans, the, you know, the fruits, the vegetables, of course, they're all good. But a lot of those things are also coated in, you know, like a flour and with chiles relleno. You know, I mean, all these Mexican dishes. So that's what I had to do first, was how can I find the little alternatives, you know, to my meals? And honestly, it was kind of simple, because I just kind of changed everything around. I took out the rice, the beans, the tortilla. And then if I needed a tortilla, I would change it to the low carb, the carb balance ones, you know, like the mission ones. I'm not too sure. But then if I needed, you know, something like a rice, I would make a cauliflower rice, but with the Mexican seasonings. So it's all about finding the little alternatives that kind of got you by throughout your entire life, and that you're used to. Those are your comfort foods. You know, I make chile verde and all these other crazy Mexican dishes, but even my mom this last year, she's on board, and she made keto tamales, and it was the best tamale. Like, I will never go back to regular tamales again because they were just so, you know, those are those things that now, even if I were to eat anything sweet now, it's just, oh my gosh, you know, what is this? Because it's my palate is just so different. I taste so much more sweetness. I taste, you know, anything and everything is just flavorful. I don't eat fruits anymore, only berries. And that's even if I get a sweet craving. I remember when you and I started working, you were like, go for the yogurt, you know, the Fage, or I don't remember whatever. And I'm like, okay, let's go for it. But I wasn't really a yogurt person. Now that's like my dessert. I need to have a sweet every night, honestly. And I do my own little berry compote stuff and put that into the yogurt, and yum, you know, that satisfies my cravings. And I hit a plateau about 30 pounds ago and it was after my surgery, my hysterectomy. And once again, it was like, okay, let's be patient. I just had surgery. I'm recovering. I can't be too hard on myself. But the 3 months went 4 months, and then 5 months. And I'm like, wait, my weight isn't dropping. What's going on? So I started changing to the 1 meal a day again. And I'm back on it. That's where the last 10 pounds have came off. But, you know, I feel like those are those changes. And once again, it was because I had to go back into what I was eating again and be like, okay, I'm obviously having a little bit too many carbs here because I got a little comfortable. Let's change it up. And I took out one meal completely. And now it's, once again, I'm starting to go back down again. And
That's awesome. And
It's
not
still
just
learning.
and you realize this isn't working. Let me change this. Let me change this option. Let me do something. So now you know you have control and say, let me change some variables here and see what happens, rather than saying nothing's working, I'm going back to eating terrible food. Because that's a huge thing. A lot of people just get frustrated and just give up completely. So I have to ask you, after losing 200 pounds, what's the most, what do you appreciate the most now? Is there something that, like going to a restaurant or going to do different things that you can do now that you couldn't do 200 pounds ago?
Well, honestly, I hate going out to restaurants now. I don't feel like I ever get satiated at restaurants. Like the protein is not what I get at home, you know, type of meal. But I think honestly, just being able to move without feeling like, you know, I'm out of breath or my body is hurting. That was the biggest. Within 2 to 3 weeks of me eating this way, my body, the joints just felt like a pressure was off of them. Just within 2 to 3 weeks. And that's what honestly got my husband into watching his carbs, because he was like, what's going on? You went from barely going up and down these stairs to now you're like going up and down and up and taking the dogs up and down. And so he calls me up from work one day and he's like, how many carbs do you eat in one day? And I'm like, oh, you know, between 20 and 30. And he's like, wait, in this little packet of crackers, there's 19. So you mean to tell me that this little packet of crackers is what you have all day? And I'm like, yeah. And that was his aha moment. Like, okay, this is definitely gonna change, because he was always falling asleep on the road from his commute. And that's when he noticed, okay, he stopped giving me the bragging about that every day. You know, like, oh yeah, it's because of that whole not being able to eat the wrong foods, you know. And now he's stable. We're all stable. You know, we're going up and down. And my biggest thing is, like I said, it's just moving. I didn't, you know, at one point I couldn't even fit into my husband's car, into the driver's seat. Now it's like I have to move the seat up, you know, because I can't reach the steering. And those are those little moments that I feel like I'm doing it, you know, everything that I've ever been told that you know, you're not going to lose weight like that, or this diet is going to kill you because of the fat, and you know, you already have fat, so you don't need more fat. I feel like kind of flipping everyone off as I drive by them, you know, now, because of just feeling that good. And that's all I can say, is just feeling good in general. I was so sad and miserable and feeling defeated, and now I feel like I can take on the world, honestly. Like I wish I could go back to that doctor just so I can flip him off and tell him, like, now look at me, you know, you jerk. But
yeah, it's a hard thing, right? It's a hard thing. And, you know, I'll tell you, I've sent patients back like that. I had a patient, she lost 58 pounds. She came off her insulin, came off all of her meds, went back to the big hospital system you used to be a member of. And there was not one question, not like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Congratulations. How'd you come off meds? They said, oh, okay, I'll change your med list. Like, no questions like, do you have cancer? Did someone die?
Yeah.
Are you going through a divorce and you're losing weight? Like, nothing. There's no interest.
Yeah.
And you look and think, wow, how can we be in medicine now? And you wonder why doctors are killing themselves, right? You wonder why they're just a cog in the wheel and they're burned out and they're just like on to the next patient, on to the next patient. And it's not that human connection that we all came to medicine for. So hearing your story, it's like, wow, it's so great to hear, and that you persevered through all that. You know, it's really amazing. Like going through that. I mean, having a heart attack at 32, like that is really stressful, because you think, oh, once I have one, I could have another one.
Exactly.
You know? And then not to be taken seriously when you're having heart stuff and they say, well, you got to lose weight. It's just unbelievable to me.
It was very frustrating. Yeah. And like, I actually got bummed that I was able to meet you when I went into the San Diego office.
I know, I'm bummed. I'm super bummed. Just drag me out of a room. Just say, get Brian out. I've had people do that to me. Gosh, I'm bummed.
We got locked into the office. We got locked in. It was like your first couple of months at that new office in San Diego. Yeah. And Dr. Bayer, we got locked in there with her, and so we couldn't get out for a while. And so it was just a funny moment. But I saw you walk by, and I'm like, okay, bye.
Oh shoot! I'm glad we finally get to talk. I mean, I'm so inspired by your story, and it's so great to hear it. It's so great to hear it. Like, man, I'm proud of you. That's just amazing. Like getting your life back, and you and your husband can go for walks now and go do stuff, and not be like worrying about dying every night. And how horrible.
What does your family say? What does your family say? I'm just curious, you know, because I'm sure you drag some of them with you. So
my mom is extremely, obviously, very proud of me. But we really, honestly, I've kind of secluded myself from my family, not in a bad way, but I just feel like I need to protect myself. And during all the COVID stuff and all that, a lot of things popped off, and I just feel like, I'm, you know, but a lot of my friends, they're obviously, you know, like I said, I was telling you that a couple of their parents even came to me because they were on insulin, and they're like, hey, what are you doing? You know, I heard you were diabetic, and now all of a sudden this, and
Rocio,
so I'm giving them advice.
Yes. Can I tell you something right now? If you ever want to be a health coach, okay, I'm snapping you, not Brian, not Brian. Okay,
no, you're West Coast. We're so much nicer here.
I'll take you. Okay, I'll take you in a heartbeat, because when you've walked the walk, you know what it takes. And here's the other thing. You know, I think that some of that struggle is hard, right? The fears of, you know, like, you know, eating this fat, like, is it going to kill me? Is it going to, you know, you've dealt with that, and you've, you know, even your cardiologist says, hey, it's fine. And your cardiologist now sees you 200 pounds down. What does he say?
Well, I actually
stop keto.
Cardiologist.
She had to switch back because of her insurance change. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But either which way, both of them, because the funny thing is that they went to medical school together. So my cardiologist for Stanford was, you know, classmates with my cardiologist, which is now the chief of cardiology at Kaiser. And so when they talked, it was like, okay, so when I spoke with the cardiologist at Kaiser, he was like, awesome, let's keep going. You know, he was very supportive. He was very like, hey, you got this.
New age when the chief of cardiology at Kaiser says, keep going with keto, Brian. So I think
But the one thing I do know,
you know,
I do know is you can't get your insulin checked. They won't do it, I don't think. If you do, you'll be the first that I know of. But
you know what? We're so proud of you. I got to be honest. I'm so proud of you, you know, and I know you're a fighter. And first of all,
how about throw? I'm just curious because I don't want to forget. Have you had your A1C check lately? The 3-month sugar average?
It's at 5 exactly.
Holy cow!
Holy shit!
Yeah, that is like, look at that, going from 8.8 or so to 5.0 or 5. Oh my gosh, that's because. Looking at the numbers, I mean, if you look at that, you know, I have a graph that I show whenever I speak, and it shows if your A1C, where the ADA says you should be at 7, it's like a 400% increased risk of dying of cardiovascular disease than if it's at 5 where you're at. So you've done dramatic things, and I'm sure your HDL has gone up, and your triglycerides have dropped like crazy, and all these other markers we look at. So that's really exciting to hear. That's really amazing.
I got to ask you one more question. Okay. First of all, I'm pretty sure you sent me some soap, and it was the best soap I've ever used in my life. So where do people, well, one, how do people find you? Okay. 2, if they want to hear more about your story, they want to connect with you, and then tell people where they can get your amazing soap, because I got to be honest with you, I am a soap snob, and I loved what you sent me.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm on social media, but my website is Deware Accessories, DEWARE accessories.com. And the funny thing about the soap thing is that I had skin issues, and my husband had skin issues. And so once again, it was like, hey, I'm a smart person. I can get into this whole soaping thing. Let's try to make some soap to fix us. And that's kind of where everything started too, was, hey, if I can make stuff for my skin that's natural, why do I have to buy all this processed stuff? And so it kind of came full circle with my eating and everything. So I'm actually working on a keto bar, keto soap bar, because of all the oils and all the other different things. So I'm excited. But
cool. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. And if anybody needs a little coupon code, it's keto. So for DewareAccessories.com. And if you need any soap, I am your person.
Just to let everybody know, we have no financial relationship. I have not talked to Rocio in over a year. Yeah. And I'm really happy to do it. So this is just, me wanting to support somebody who I know is a really amazing person. Just to make that super.
And I have to buy my own soap, Tro. Is that right?
Yeah, listen, man.
I'll send you
I'll have to buy it now. I have to buy it now. Whatever.
You can get your shampoo. She knows, all I can do is soap up here.
Yeah, make my hair grow back, and if you can make my hair not be gray, we'll take it. I was happy last night, Troy. I was thinking about you. I was talking to this doctor who's a bit older than me. He's like, you young doctors. I was like, I love this. I love this guy. You young doctors, right?
Rosio, thank you so much. This has been awesome. Your story is definitely going to be an inspiration, and we really appreciate you sharing your struggle. And I know it's, you know, these are vulnerable topics, and so we appreciate you being vulnerable and open. And I just wanted one thing to say thank you to all the Patreon supporters. You help keep us going. If anybody's got a question, and I know we don't get a lot of questions, but I'm going to open it up if you wanted to ask, you know, Rocio a question, because I got one question. Where do you go from here? Where do you go from here? That's my one.
I feel like I've worked with nonprofits all my life until I got into the soaping industry. And I feel like that's always been my passion, is helping people. And so I really want to get into health coaching and being that help that I never received, because I know it's going to get me emotional again, but I know the struggle. I know how hard it is to not have anyone on your side. And that's something that if I can help one person, that alone has made my life, you know, a full circle again. So that's where I feel I need to go. And just obviously still watch my carbs.
The sad part is you probably gotten more people off insulin than most doctors in the world already. And you didn't go to medical school, right?
Fingers crossed.
No, it's not the sad. It's the exciting thing, right? And you know, when people tell you, you know, like, you know, when you see that trope where doctors say, "Don't compare your medical degree to your Google, you know, search to my medical degree." Well, honestly, your Google search did what their medical degrees couldn't do, and that's a shame. You know, that's a shame. I'm with you. We got one person here who says, hey, listen, if you really ask nicely, some people from Kaiser, San Francisco will order an insulin test, okay? But they'll say, but I don't really know how to interpret it. So
we'll help you. We can interpret. We know how to interpret it. That's all right, man. If you can get it, we can help you interpret it. And if you're at Kaiser, give me or Tro a call. We'd love to talk to you because we can help you guys. We really can. We can help you in a lot of ways. It's not a personal thing. I think it's like we all need to help patients, so we have to educate and learn, you know. So and it's just been such an honor having so many great doctors that we run into at conferences that say, hey, we listen to the podcast. It's really cool to see that we're making some kind of an impact too.
Can I share a quick story, guys, before Rocio heads out? So, you know, we battle insurance companies all the time. The doctors, we want to order something. I ordered a test for a patient that the insurance didn't want to pay for. We appealed it. Finally, they said you have to do a peer-to-peer. And this is where the doctor has to waste half an hour to talk to some other doctor, you know, and make the case to get something like a Holter monitor. In your case, Rocio, this is the lengths we have to go to. And I picked up the phone and the doctor says, oh my God, I'm your hugest fan. I can't believe I'm talking to you right now. I listen to your podcast. Brian, have you gotten that one yet?
Oh, cool.
Not from doctors, but I did. I had a pharmacist.
On a peer-to-peer.
My patient said, "Oh my gosh!" Like I was going over with one of the big pharmacies. They were going over the med list, and they were saying how their med list has changed so much. The pharmacist said, "Who's your doctor?" And he said, "Brian Lenskis." He said, oh, "The same one on LowCarbMD. I love that guy. Oh my gosh!" So I got to call him one Saturday morning. We got a nice conversation, but it's so cool. Like, there's so much mutual respect and so many good people out there that really want to help their patients, and they're frustrated by the system too. So yeah, it's fun. It's really fun to hear that, because and just going to the conference to see the impact even Tro has on all these people, man. I'm kidding, but it's amazing. It's just amazing to hear people's stories. And that's why it's so great, because I think we got a little off track talking to all the experts, but you're really the expert, like who we consider the expert, but you've done it.
Thank you.
You've done it, and you've lived your life. And that's what's so critical. I think people need to hear these inspiring stories right now who are lost, saying, I'm never like where you were when you were 32 or where you were when the doctor said, you're doing everything wrong. And this is why I'm not even going to try to help you because it's been 45 years and you haven't helped yourself. That's so brutal, So it just is a testament to you working hard and saying, I'm not just going to accept that. I'm going to look, buy a book, read, educate yourself, and that you showed the initiative to do that, and you got on the right track, and now you can do it. Now you can inspire other people. That's what it's about, Yeah.
So that's
cool. Rocio, thank you so much. Patreon supporters, thank you. Brian, it's always a pleasure. And this is the LowCarbMD podcast.